Welcome. Thank you for choosing our channel. Help us out by subscribing, liking the video, and leaving a short comment. We greatly appreciate it. Make yourselves comfortable. The story is about to begin. In the grimy, labyrinthine alleys of the city's rookery, Anya was a ghost. At 17, she had mastered the art of being unseen, a skill learned in the harsh aftermath of her parents' very public fall from grace. They had been the most celebrated cartographers in the kingdom, their names once spoken with reverence. But their ambition had outpaced the monarchy's tolerance. Their obsession with mapping the so-called forbidden lands, realms of myth and magic that appeared on no official charts, had seen them branded as heretics and traitors. Anya remembered the day of their execution with a clarity that was a wound in her memory. The jeering crowds, the grim pronouncements, the shame that had clung to her like a shroud ever since. Now she survived on the dregs of their genius. She lived in a cramped attic, the air thick with the scent of old parchment and cheap ink. By day, she forged travel permits and copied city maps for merchants, her fingers, as skilled as her parents, able to replicate any seal or signature. It was a meager, dangerous living. But by night, she studied the true legacy her parents had left her, a collection of coded journals and star charts, filled with the complex theories and arcane symbols that had led to their deaths. She did not believe them to be traitors. She believed they were on the verge of a great discovery, and the hope that she could one day prove it was the only thing that kept the city's bitter cold from seeping into her bones. The summons came on a rain-slicked evening. It was not the kick of a guard's boot on her door, which she always half expected, but a polite, firm knock. A man stood on her threshold, impeccably dressed in a dark livery that bore a crest she did not recognize, a silver dragon coiled around a black tower. He was unnervingly clean for the rookery, and his eyes held a calm stillness that was more intimidating than any threat. "Anya, daughter of Kalin and Lyra," he said, his voice a low baritone. "My lord requests your presence." It was not a request. Anya, knowing that to refuse a lord was a death sentence in itself, simply nodded. She was led not to a carriage, but to a sleek black coach with no windows, which moved through the city streets with an eerie silence. It transported her from her world of grime and desperation to a different universe entirely. The coach stopped before an immense manor of black stone and stained glass, a Gothic marvel that seemed to absorb the twilight around it. She was escorted into a vast library, where the scent of aged leather and beeswax was a balm to her soul. A fire crackled in a hearth large enough to stand in, casting a warm glow on the thousands of leather-bound books that lined the walls from floor to ceiling. And standing by the fire, a glass of dark red wine in his hand, was the lord of the manor. He was tall and impossibly handsome, with sharp aristocratic features, pale skin, and dark hair that fell perfectly across his brow. He wore a tailored velvet coat of the deepest blue, and his eyes, when he turned them on her, were a captivating, intelligent shade of amethyst. He smiled, a gesture that was both charming and predatory. "Anya, forgive the unorthodox invitation," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I am Lord Valerius, and I was a great admirer of your parents." Anya's heart clenched. It had been years since anyone had spoken of her parents with anything other than scorn. "They were visionaries," Valerius continued, his gaze intense. "Pioneers, punished for being ahead of their time. I have spent years collecting their work, trying to preserve their legacy from those who would see it erased." He gestured to a massive oak table in the center of the room. Unrolled upon it was a vast circular map, a breathtaking work of art. It was a complex blend of geography, alchemy, and astrology, its lines and symbols drawn with a masterful hand she recognized instantly. It was their style, but the center of the map was a great, empty void. "Their final masterpiece," Valerius said softly. "The Ethelgard map, unfinished. They were executed before they could complete their journey." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "I believe it leads to a place of immense power and knowledge, a place that would prove their theories correct and silence their critics forever. I have recovered their private journals, which I believe hold the key. But the final steps, they require an insight, a connection, that only their bloodline possesses. He looked at her, his amethyst eyes seeming to peer directly into her soul, seeing her deepest, most desperate desire. Help me finish it, Anya. Help me vindicate them. In return, my influence at court is considerable. I will see them posthumously pardoned. Their names will be restored. Your name will be restored. The offer was a siren's song, targeting the one vulnerability she could not defend. The chance to clear her parents' names, to prove their worth to the world, was a dream she had barely dared to entertain. "Why?" she asked, her voice a whisper. "Why are you doing this?" "Let us just say I am a historian of lost causes," he said with another charming smile, "and a firm believer that genius should be celebrated, not condemned." He left her alone in the library with the map and the journals. With trembling hands, she opened the top journal. The familiar, elegant script of her mother's handwriting filled the page, and a wave of grief and love washed over her. She looked at the map, at the empty space in its heart. It was a puzzle, a final message from her parents, and this strange, charismatic lord was offering her the chance to solve it. She ran her fingers over the edge of the empty space on the parchment. As she did, she felt a faint, almost imperceptible thrum of energy, a low vibration that seemed to call to something deep within her. Hope, fierce and dangerous, bloomed in her chest. She had no idea of the true nature of the man who had hired her, nor of the terrible power the map was designed to contain. She only knew that she held her parents' legacy in her hands, and she would not fail them again. The days that followed were a blur of focused obsession for Anya. Lord Valerius had given her a private study on the west wing of the manor, a magnificent circular room with a domed ceiling painted like the night sky. It was a world away from her cramped attic. Here she was surrounded by every tool a cartographer could dream of, astrolabes of polished brass, parchments as smooth as cream, and inks in 100 different hues. But her focus was solely on the two items that held her parents' soul, the vast, incomplete map and their leather-bound journals. She lost herself in their words, a bittersweet reunion across the veil of death. The journals were a complex tapestry. Pages of precise astronomical calculations and geographical surveys were interwoven with her mother's beautiful sketches of mythical beasts and her father's philosophical musings on the nature of magic. It was their life's work, their heart and soul bound in leather. And hidden within it all, Anya began to find the secrets they had left only for her. Lord Valerius was a constant, shadowy presence. He visited her only after sunset, gliding into the study with his unnerving silence. He was the perfect patron, always bringing some offering. A rare book on celestial navigation, a cup of spiced warm wine that chased away the evening chill. He would watch her work for hours, his amethyst eyes sharp and intelligent. His knowledge was staggering. He could discuss the erosion patterns of a specific mountain range, as if he'd watched it happen over centuries, or the subtle shifts in constellations with an astronomer's precision. "Your mother had a theory about ley lines," he commented one evening, his voice a smooth purr as he looked over her shoulder at a complex diagram she'd copied. She believed they weren't just lines of energy, but the very veins of the world, a circulatory system for its magic. Anya looked up at him, her heart swelling with pride. Most people called her a fool for it. "Geniuses are often mistaken for fools by the short-sighted," Valerius said, his eyes gleaming with what she took for sincere admiration. "She was a woman of vision, as are you." His praise was a balm on her old wounds, and she found herself trusting him, confiding in him. She would show him her small breakthroughs, and he would listen intently, his gaze sharpest when she mentioned the coded sections she was struggling with. He never rushed her, never pressured her, but a subtle, constant urgency hummed beneath his charming exterior. The breakthrough came a week into her work. She was studying a passage filled with what seemed like nonsense rhymes and childish drawings of animals. It was a lullaby her mother used to sing her to sleep, one Anya hadn't thought of in years. Suddenly she understood. The code wasn't just scientific, it was personal. It was a cipher built from the shared language of their family. The sleeping bear was a constellation they had named together. The river of tears was a specific map-making technique her father had invented. It was a key only she could possibly turn. Working with a new, feverish excitement, Anya began to unlock the map's secrets at a breathtaking pace. She translated star charts using the secret names from her childhood. She plotted coordinates based on the rhythm of her mother's lullabies. The empty void in the center of the map began to fill under her skilled hands, not with a landmass, but with a complex, swirling pattern of celestial orbits and energy conduits. It wasn't a map to a place. It was the diagram of a lock, a massive, magical lock. As she connected the final celestial line, a new set of instructions was revealed, written in her father's neat, urgent script. Her breath caught in her throat. The first line was a warning, stark and chilling. This is not a key to a library, but to a cage. The warden's heart is the lock. The dragon's heart is the prize. Do not turn the key. A cage? A dragon? The words made no sense. It contradicted everything Valerius had told her. Below the warning was the final step to completing the map, the instruction for drawing the central sigil that would harmonize the energies and complete the lock. The final line must be drawn with the blood of our lineage, for the magic knows its own. It is the only ink that can finish the work. A cold dread began to seep into Anya's bones, chilling the warmth of her recent hope. A cage. The dragon's heart. Her parents weren't trying to reveal a great discovery. They were trying to contain one. Her work wasn't an act of vindication. It was an act of... what? Before she could fully process the horrifying implications, the door to the study creaked open. Lord Valerius stood there, a pleased smile on his handsome face. But as his gaze fell upon the section of the journal she was reading, and then to the terrified, dawning understanding on her own face, his mask slipped. For a single, terrifying instant, the charming scholar vanished, replaced by a predator. A flicker of cold, ravenous hunger flashed in his amethyst eyes, a promise of ancient violence. It was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by his usual smooth charm, but Anya had seen it. The truth of him. "My dear Anya," he said, gliding into the room, his voice dripping with false concern. "You look as if you've seen a ghost. Have you found something wonderful?" She stared at him, her heart hammering against her ribs. The map was a key. Her blood was the ink, and the charming man before her was not a historian. He was a monster, and he was waiting for her to open the cage. Anya's mind raced, a frantic scramble for survival in the sudden, chilling silence. The mask was off. She had seen the predator beneath the patron's cultured veneer, and every instinct screamed that she was trapped. But years of surviving in the rookery had taught her one thing: never show a predator your fear. She forced a breath into her tight lungs and manufactured a look of innocent confusion. "My lord," she said, her voice admirably steady, "I'm sorry. My father's writing, it wanders. He speaks in riddles." A cage? A dragon? It must be some sort of poetic metaphor for the library he was trying to find. She looked up at him, her eyes wide and guileless. "It is a bit frightening, though, isn't it?" Valerius studied her for a long, unnerving moment. His amethyst eyes searched hers for any sign of deceit. Seeing only what appeared to be the fear of a naive girl spooked by her father's grim folklore, his charming smile returned, though it no longer reached his eyes. The flicker of hunger she'd seen was gone, but now she recognized the cold, calculating intelligence behind the mask. He believed she was still his pawn. "Indeed, my dear," he said smoothly. "Your parents were brilliant, but prone to the dramatic. Pay the ramblings no mind. The important thing is the final instruction, your blood. It is, as they say, the key." He gestured toward the map, his excitement a low thrum in the air. "The final piece of the puzzle. Shall we?" He led her to the great table. The moment was upon her. In her mind she saw another page from the journals, one she had deciphered just hours before, thinking it was a theoretical exercise. It was her father's ultimate contingency, titled The Cartographer's Gambit. It described a hidden flaw in the map's magical matrix. Her parents had not just designed a lock, they had designed a fail-safe. By drawing the central sigil in reverse, a cartographer of their bloodline could turn the key the wrong way. Instead of opening the cage, it would reinforce it, pouring the map's collected energy back into the prison's seals. But the warning was dire. To channel such power was a tremendous risk. The backlash could consume the cartographer, draining their life force completely. It was a choice between certain doom for the world at Valerius's hands and possible doom for herself. Looking at the vampire's handsome, triumphant face, she knew it wasn't a choice at all. It was a duty. Her parents' final, desperate duty now passed to her. "I'm ready," she said, her voice a whisper. Valerius handed her a silver compass, its needle sharpened to a fine point. He watched, his eyes gleaming with a centuries-old hunger, as she pricked the tip of her finger. A single, perfect drop of crimson welled up. Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm, a drumbeat counting down her final moments. This is for them, she thought, a silent prayer to the parents she had so longed to vindicate. She touched her bleeding finger to the empty center of the map. The parchment drank her blood greedily, and the intricate lines of the entire map began to glow with a faint, expectant red light. Her hand trembled as she began to draw. She pictured the correct sigil in her mind, the one that meant open, and then, with a surge of defiant will, she began to draw its mirror image, the reverse. The seal of closing. The moment her bloody finger completed the final reversed curve, the reaction was instantaneous and violent. A blinding column of pure silver light erupted from the map, striking the domed ceiling of the library. It was not the dark, hungry energy Valerius had been anticipating. It was a magic that was clean, ancient, and protective. He shrieked, a sound of pure fury and pain, as the holy, searing light washed over him. He was not prepared for a defensive spell of this magnitude. The light threw him back across the room, and he crashed against a bookshelf, his form flickering as his dark power was violently suppressed. The light also surged into Anya, but it did not consume her. The magic, her parents' magic, recognized her selfless sacrifice. It recognized the blood of its creators. Instead of draining her, the protective energy of the reinforced seal flowed into her. She felt not pain, but a wave of warmth spreading from her chest, washing away the years of cold and loneliness. It filled the hollow space her grief had carved out, leaving behind a sense of profound peace and a quiet, humming strength she had never known. When the light faded, the library was in disarray. Books were strewn across the floor. Lord Valerius was gone, having retreated into the darkest shadows of his manor to nurse his unexpected wounds. The map on the table was now blank, its magic spent, its duty done. Anya stood in the center of the room, panting but alive. More than alive. She felt whole. The shame that had been her constant companion for years was gone, replaced by a fierce, quiet pride. She had not restored her parents' reputation in the eyes of the world, but she had fulfilled their true legacy. She had been their final, secret line of defense. She had understood their warning and completed their work. With one last look at the now blank map, she turned and walked out of the library, out of the silent, timeless manor, and did not look back. She stepped out into the pre-dawn air, no longer a ghost of the rookery, but a guardian of a secret she would carry for the rest of her life. She was Anya, daughter of Kaelin and Lyra, the cartographers who had saved the world, and for the first time she was truly free. True honor is not found in the world's applause, but in fulfilling a hidden duty. The greatest legacies are not written in history books, but in the secret choices we make to protect others. It is in the moment of greatest risk that we discover our true inheritance. Not the shame of our past, but the strength to forge a better future. Thank you for joining this adventure at a Fang love story. If Anya's courage inspired you, please help us map out our next journey by liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. We'll see you in the next chapter.